What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the marker board. I am a bottle of steak sauce today. I just got back from the gym and I'm looking forward to making this video for you guys. We're talking about diet breaks today. So what is a diet break? Why would a diet break be something that we would use, and maybe when would be some appropriate time frames or scenarios to use them? And then what does a diet break actually look like? And we're going to actually go over my personal diet behind me in order to do that. So what is a diet break? A diet break is exactly what it sounds like. It's a period of time where you essentially take a break from dieting. And by dieting, I'm referring to being in a caloric deficit. I'm not referring to following a diet. I'm referring to being in a caloric deficit for someone who is cutting. Usually what we're doing in this instance is bringing calories up to maintenance and just getting somebody out of being in a deficit, and kind of getting into why some scenarios that we would use a diet break. One of those instances would be to psychologically and mentally allow somebody to adhere to the diet a little bit better. And I find that this is particularly applicable with people that have large amounts of weight that they have to lose. Say that I have a male who needs to lose maybe 100 pounds or more. It's a little bit easier, not only physically, but also psychologically, to take that in chunks. And instead of thinking about losing 100 pounds at one time, you would maybe think about losing 20 pounds here and then taking a little bit of a break and just holding that. And then maybe losing another 20 to 25 pounds here, holding that body weight for a little bit before you jump into another block of fat loss, so on and so forth. So from a psychological perspective, particularly with people that have a lot of weight that they need to lose, it can really help make that process a little bit easier mentally. Physiologically, and kind of getting into some of the physical benefits of a diet break, we can also see with people that are in extended periods of fat loss and extended periods of caloric restriction that there can be some negative consequences for that, for lack of a better word. Some of these are going to show up in blood work, like potentially increased cortisol levels or potentially altered sexual hormones like testosterone or estrogen. But these may also just show up in general quality of life, decreased sleep quality or quantity, and increased hunger, or even decreased hunger, just rapidly losing appetite, lack of sex drive or libido, lack of motivation to train. This can really start to rear its head on you in some ugly ways if you spend too much time in a caloric deficit. And so the diet break is something that we as coaches would use to help not only psychologically but physiologically as well, help prepare somebody to get ready to prepare for the next chunk of fat loss. Now, when would be a scenario in which we would use diet breaks, or how often would we use these? I have seen this get talked about with some sort of an equation or a schedule. I've heard it been talked about where maybe a 2-to-1 ratio of cutting to taking a diet break. So for example, if you took a 4-week cut, then you would take a 2-week diet break. I don't really work in ratios or equations or percentages like this. A lot of this you need to take a look at logistically, and a lot of this is going to come down to whether I'm working with a lifestyle person or someone who is just bodybuilding recreationally but doesn't necessarily have any plans of competing, versus when I'm working with a competitor and when I'm working with an athlete. So, or even if there's someone who's not a competitor or an athlete, maybe there's somebody that mainly they have a strict timeline that they want to get lean by. Maybe they want to get lean by their birthday, or they want to get lean by June for the summer. If somebody has a very specific timeline that they need to get lean by, such as a bodybuilding competition, obviously, or just one of the scenarios that I had mentioned, then the duration of the diet break is going to largely depend on the parameters that you have available to you. If you have plenty of time to be able to take a 3 to 4 week diet break, then obviously I would recommend that you would do that. From my experience, the longer that you can spend in the diet break setting without actually setting yourself back from getting to the goal that you're trying to get to, the better. But if you don't have that much time to work with, then you kind of just have to work with the parameters of your goal. Now, if you're somebody who's more of like a lifestyle person and you don't have a set time that you want to get lean by, or maybe like in my scenario, I am in a bodybuilding prep, but I have more of an open-ended timeline. I know that I want to compete, and there are 4 to 5 shows within a 3 to 4 month time frame, and I'm really just kind of focused on dieting and getting in shape, and then choosing the show based off of where I'm at that particular time of the year. So I don't really have such a strict timeline that I need to be lean for. It's more of a general timeline. So that would be another instance where you may be able to drag that out a little bit longer. And you may even be in a scenario where you could run like 1-to-1 period of diet break, where maybe you diet for 8 weeks and then diet break at maintenance for 8 weeks as well. As I said prior, I think the longer that you can spend in the diet break phase at maintenance, essentially without taking away from your ability to reach your goal, I think the better that is going to be. And this is a approach that I have been using a lot more this year, particularly with clients. Up until this point, I have mainly been using refeeds, single or double day refeeds, where we have maybe a larger influx of calories, mainly from carbohydrates, coming in on, again, 1 or 2 specific days. Whereas the diet break, you're bringing in smaller amounts of food, but you're holding that maintenance level for a little bit longer. And I have just seen better results with the clients that I've used this approach with this year by running those diet breaks for a little bit longer. And so I'm pretty excited to see how it's going to work out for me as I get into my particular diet break. And I guess that'll take us into the diet that you see behind me. So what we're looking at here at the top is what I would refer to as my base diet. This is what my diet is or was when I was at the end of the most recent fat loss phase. And then we're going to go over some of the changes that I made to that diet as I've started the diet break here. So I've tried to keep this simple with color coding. The red is going to be for rest days. Red and rest, I tried to make that easy to follow. And then the blue that we see here, this is going to be for the training days. So meal number 1 is 2 eggs, 130 grams of turkey sausage, 2 English muffins, 20 grams of cheese, 100 grams of apple, and 5 grams of butter. Meal number 2, by the way, everything here is measured raw prior to cooking. 220 grams of chicken, so that's 220 grams of raw chicken, 50 grams of rice, again, raw rice, and then 100 grams of berries. On a training day, this is my pre-workout meal. Meal number 3, if it's a training day, I don't even know if you would consider this a meal, but this would be my intra-workout, where I have 10 grams of whey, 8 grams of EAAs, and 50 grams of carbs from a carbohydrate powder. I do not obviously have this on my rest days, and if you want to get specific, if you take a look at my rest day and training day macros, the only difference between the training days and the rest days is about 50 grams of carbs and 15 grams of protein, which coincidentally is exactly what my intra workout is. So the 5 meals that I have every day stay the same, whether it's a training day or a rest day. And the only thing that's different between a training day and a rest day is that intra workout nutrition. Meal number 4 on a training day, which is meal number 3 on a rest day. This is a shake. This is a liquid meal. I have 30 grams of whey, 1 cup or 240 milliliters of fat-free milk, and then 50 grams of a carb source. On a training day, I use cereal, like a sugary rice-based cereal for something that digests very easily and has a higher glycemic index that will spike my insulin higher, theoretically. On a rest day, I have 50 grams of oats and then 100 grams of berries as well. Meal number 5 is the same exact thing as meal number 2, but I have 220 grams of beef instead of chicken and 100 grams of pineapple instead of berries. And then the final meal is 450 grams of Greek yogurt with 25 grams of cocoa powder, 5 grams of stevia, and another 100 grams of berries. So on a rest day, I'm having 2,750 calories, about 310 carbs, 70 fat, and 240 protein. On training days, 3,000 calories. As I mentioned earlier, 50 grams more carbs, so 360, and 255 protein, and the same 70 grams of fat. So that is on a base day, a normal day when I was in a deficit. And it's impossible for me to calculate how much of a deficit that I'm in when I follow this diet at the top here, but I can tell by the way that my weight is moving down consistently every week that I am in a pretty assertive and aggressive deficit. If I had to estimate, it's probably somewhere around 1,000 calories. So how am I going to change my diet in order to get from that deficit into caloric maintenance so that I can start to get some of the benefits of being in a diet break? So this is going to look incredibly simple, but I think that's the beauty of it, is because this doesn't need to be very complicated. Now, the calories that I am increasing from are all coming from carbohydrates. The carbohydrates specifically are going to be the fuel source that we use in the gym as bodybuilders. They're going to be the thing that affects the look of our muscles the most. More carbohydrates, more glycogen, a more full and round muscle. And then from a hormonal perspective, carbohydrates are going to be the macro that is going to shift our hunger hormones, leptin and ghrelin, most favorably into an environment where the hunger is coming at bay. Because one of the reasons why I'm running this diet break, aside from the fact that I'm ahead of schedule with my fat loss for prep, is because I'm starting to get hungry, and it's a little too early in prep for me to be this hungry. So the carbohydrates are going to have the biggest effect on that. So the only thing that I did is added more carbohydrates to each meal. And as I mentioned in a prior video that I uploaded on my channel, I am adding all of those carbohydrates from white rice only. I made this mistake a couple years ago in my first competitive season, where as I was adding in carbohydrates for my refeeds and diet breaks, I was adding those in from a lot of fibrous carbohydrates, and that was causing me a lot of digestive issues. So we're adding in everything from rice. So on a rest day, I added 25 grams of rice to each meal, and that is it. That obviously accounts for 125 grams of rice added across the whole day, which is 450 calories, about 100 grams of carbs, it's 98 grams of carbs, and about 10 grams of protein. And then on a training day, I just doubled that. So I added 50 grams of rice to every meal, 50 grams of cereal to the post-workout meal, and that obviously accounts for double, about 900 grams, or 900 calories, 200 grams of carbs, and about 15 grams of protein. I don't really feel the need to add more carbs to the intra-workout. Personally, I don't really see a difference when I go above 50, going from 0 to 25, I notice a difference. Going from 25 to 50, I notice a difference. And then I've had periods of time where I've done 75 to 100 grams of carbs intra-workout, and I don't get anything other than a gut ache. Usually once I go above 50 grams of carbs. So I don't really feel the need to go above 50 grams of carbs intra-workout, but I have been, on a training day, I've been adding 50 grams of rice to every single meal. Sometimes, particularly with the last meal, I'll use cream of rice instead of white rice. But, for those of you guys who are in the know, you know that cream of rice is just ground up rice anyways, so the macros are the exact same. But as you can see, it's pretty simple, and I think that there's beauty in simplicity. Increasing the calories. I've been following this for about 5 or 6 days, and my weight has completely flatlined. It's actually almost kind of weird how much that it's flatlined. I have been basically either 191.4 or 191.8 every single day that I have been following this increased diet with the extra carbs. So as of now, it's still a little early for me to finalize whether or not it is true caloric maintenance, but it does appear to be caloric maintenance. So the goal is going to be obviously to follow that new diet with the higher calories and higher carbohydrate intake for as long as we can, and probably throughout the holidays here. I'm filming this on it is November 17th, so we're about 10 days away from Thanksgiving. So I'll definitely be following this diet through the Thanksgiving time period, and there's a pretty good chance I'll be following it from Thanksgiving to Christmas as well. And then once we kind of get into the New Year's time period, I'll probably strip all of the food that I added. I'll probably strip that back and just return to the base diet, because I know that when I'm following this base diet, I'm in a deficit and I'm losing body fat. So the only thing that I'm going to do when it's time for me to end the diet break and get back into a deficit is just take away everything that I added to get into the diet break, go back to following the base diet, and in theory, this base diet should see me continue to move down again. Hope that you guys enjoyed this little instructional video here. As always, I'm hoping that my videos will inspire some conversation or some questions. So if you guys have any questions or anything you'd like to ask in the description, please, I very much look forward to those. If you guys are interested in online coaching or any of my services, I have those in the description as always. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you're training today, then train hard. And if you're resting today, then rest hard. As always, guys, thanks for watching and take care of yourselves.